Hello, welcome to the channel. My name is Carlos, and today we're looking at the Tissot PR516, which is one of Tissot's most interesting affordable chronograph offers for 2025. This is the Tissot PR516, really interesting automatic chronograph. This is entry-level affordable chronograph that on its dimensions and style alone is really set to compete with the big boys, in particular the Tudor Black Braid chronograph. So before we get much farther into this review, I do want to thank the good folks over at Tissot that were kind enough to let me borrow this watch for the purpose of this review. I do not get to keep this watch. This watch will be going back to Tissot as soon as the review is over. Tissot has absolutely no say in the making of this review, and everything that you will be hearing in this review will basically be my unfiltered opinions. So the PR516 line from Tissot is actually a very interesting line of watches that date back as far as the 1960s and 70s. However, in 2024, Tissot decided to bring this vintage line back and give us the opportunity to get back into it, but with the benefit of that new vintage watch, where you get all of the cool style and heritage from this vintage line, but you get it in a modern, brand new watch, which I think is pretty awesome. So what's different for 2025 is that they introduced this really new, amazing version of the PR516 chronograph, which is the first one from this new relaunch to actually be a self-winding automatic chronograph. With all of that said, I think that it might also be the most handsome one. So looking at the fit and finish of this watch, starting with the case, we get a very beautiful, very Tudor reminiscent style case with the rounded lugs. We get very beautiful linear brushing on the top and the sides of the case, but of course Tissot goes ahead and adds extra polished bevels on the edges of the case to really just give it a slightly more elegant finish and look to the case. On the crown side of the case, we get the usual beautifully signed Tissot crown, and we get two really nice chronograph pushers that have been fully polished that are just super crisp and really fall in line with that kind of vintage race inspired design. Moving on to the bezel, we have this very beautiful fully polished stepped bezel that really sort of keeps in line with that vintage kind of look. And Tissot further adorns the bezel with a very nice mineral crystal bezel insert with a very nice tachymeter scale. The double dome top hat sapphire crystal on this watch is particularly exquisite and has been shaped to pretty much mimic one of those old school acrylic crystals that you would find on those watches of the 60s and 70s. The dial on this watch is an absolute looker, being that is a completely matte white dial with really beautiful blue accents. The dial features a very nice polished square overlaid markers. On the outside of the markers, you will see a very beautiful blue radial track to help track the elapsed seconds of the chronograph hand. And then being that this is a tri-compact chronograph, we get three beautiful subdials that track the elapsed seconds of the time, as well as the elapsed minutes and hours of the chronograph feature. The subdials have also been very beautifully adorned with very nice blue borders with very nice radial details. The hands on this watch are pretty nice as well. The subdials all feature very nice, very simple lollipop hands. We get very nice syringe style hands for the hours and minutes, except for the hour hand is a little bit more blocky. It almost seems like the needle of the syringe has been left out. And we finish with the chronograph's second hand, which is a very nice, very clean blue hand with a very nice T counterweight to sort of add a little bit more branding and complexity to the overall presentation of this watch. As it's customary, right underneath the 12 o'clock marker, we will see the Tissot branding as well as the year marking the founding of the company. Turning this watch over, I'm looking at the backside. We get a very beautiful display case back showing that Valjoux Chronograph Movement beating at 8 beats per second with plenty of perlage adorning all of its surfaces. One of the nicest things about this particular watch is actually the bracelet, which is kind of a jubilee style bracelet, meaning that it has the independent sort of grain of rice links in the middle of each link. One of the things that's very nice about this bracelet is that all of the tiny little center links that that are in between the main links are actually all independently articulated, which does make resizing the bracelet just a little bit tougher, but it also adds a great amount of elegance and flexibility and comfort to the bracelet. This particular bracelet does offer a butterfly clasp, but the upside of the bracelet is that the Jubilee links are a little bit smaller than traditional links, meaning that they lay themselves better for more fine adjustment. And this particular bracelet does offer two very nice half links right next to the butterfly clasp to give you a little extra adjustability when trying to find that perfect fit. I found that on my 7.5-inch wrist, I was able to get a pretty good fit by just removing one of the normal size links. As far as accuracy goes, unfortunately, I did not get to put this watch through the time grapher as my time grapher is currently in Portland, but I did get to wear this watch for about a week, and in my experience wearing this watch gained 2 seconds per day, making it a really accurate watch in my opinion. So getting into the pricing of this watch, this particular watch is priced on the Tissot website for $1,995. This is one of Tissot's top tier offerings, so it's going to be a little bit higher up in the price range. If you really like this watch and you want to try a more affordable version, I suggest that you look into the quartz options, as these guys retail well under $600 and will give you a very similar style and vibe. But with all of that said, let's talk about where this particular watch fits in the overall sort of market of watches and why this price of $1,995 is actually kind of a bargain. So if we look at automatic self-winding chronographs, one of the big things that you are going to find at almost all of the price ranges until you start, spending some very serious money is that all of them tend to be really big and really thick. One of the kind of most affordable and luxurious chronographs that you can get that still have somewhat decent case sizes is something like the Tudor Black Bay chronograph, which is 41 millimeters, just like this particular case, but it's actually a little bit thicker than this watch at 14.5 millimeters. Now, it's important to note that the Tudor cost $6,000, and the size of this case is not the only reason why it's that much more expensive. It also features a very nice column wheel movement that is manufactured by the folks over at Breitling. But with that said, at $6,000, it's probably one of the more affordable, decently sized chronographs that you can find right now. So for literally 1/3 of the price, if you're willing to trade out that Breitling movement for still very good workhorse Valjoux movement, you can basically have even thinner chronograph for 1/3 of the price. So it's gonna be pretty hard to find an automatic chronograph with case dimensions that really compete against that. So if you're somebody who's really into this particular vintage look and you are looking for chronographs that feel less thick and less bulky, that are Swiss made, then this is going to be a pretty unique offering that is going to be hard to beat for this particular price. I think that you really are paying for the style and for the form factor, and as I said, to get something that on paper so closely competes with something like a Tudor Black Bay chronograph for a fraction of the price, I think it's something that's pretty amazing. All right, so let's wrap this review with likes and dislikes. So as far as likes, look, like this particular watch is a big win for me. I usually wear bigger chronographs. My daily, believe it or not, is a 45 millimeter Zenith El Primero that's 15 millimeters thick. So putting a 41 millimeter chronograph that is only 14 millimeters thick was pretty amazing. Like, to be honest, it was something that as soon as I put it on my wrist and I saw those dimensions, I kind of knew that Tissot had something special. I also think that this particular colorway is the best colorway out of all the ones that they offer. I love white dials. I feel like they're very clean. I feel like they're very sporty. I feel like they're very casual. And I think that the fact that they chose to go with blue instead of black was just a winner. It just keeps the watch fun. It keeps the whole thing relaxed, and it just has such a great vibe. Lastly, I will say that I do like dates on my watches, but dates on these tri-compacts Valjoux calibers are kind of a pain in the butt because you don't necessarily have like a crown actuated quick date option. So you have to use pushers, and usually you have some sort of tool that you use to press the pusher and change the date. So I really like that they actually removed the date from this one. I think that it keeps the whole watch really clean, and then it removes the need for that ugly plunger on the side. And while I will miss the date complication, I think that for this particular watch, not having the date actually feels very nice and very natural to it. All right, so as far as dislikes, I think that there are two things that are not major. Honestly, at this point, I'm nitpicking, but I think it would be unfair for me to not point certain things about watches that I review that I feel could maybe be improved a little bit. So with this particular watch, there's only two things that I think are kind of missed opportunities. I think the first one is the fact that the bezel is mineral crystal instead of sapphire. I don't necessarily know that in the long-term sort of lifespan of owning this watch, the mineral crystal would make that much of a difference. But I think that nowadays we kind of expect as consumers all of these parts to be sapphire crystals. So I think that having used sapphire on the bezel would have been kind of nice, and it would have made the price a little bit easier to understand when looking at the overall offering. And the only other sort of missed opportunity, and this is like a very personal thing, I really love the syringe style hands, but I really think that it's a bit odd that only the minute hand has the needle for the syringe, and that they decided to kind of do away with the needle on the hour hand, which sort of just gives it this very blocky feeling. I think that if they would have gone with fully syringe hands for both the hour and the minutes, just the hands would have been slightly more attractive. But that's pretty much it. That's my take on the Tissot PR516. As I said, I think this is a phenomenal watch. I think the price is pretty amazing for the overall case dimensions and wearability. I'm a big fan of the bracelet. I actually think that it's very classy and very comfortable. But I'm curious, what do you guys think of the Tissot PR516? Is this a watch that you are looking forward to try on? Is it something that it's kind of on your to buy list? Another question that I have that I would love for you guys to contribute in the comments is, as far as Swiss automatic chronographs, am I missing something? Are there other, even if they're also Valjoux based, 41 millimeter, 14 millimeter thick chronographs or less out there that I am not thinking about when I think about this watch? Let me know if I'm missing something. Maybe there's some micro brands or somebody that does like a very interesting Swiss made chronograph that has even smaller dimensions when it comes to the case than this one. But anyways, thank you very much for watching this review till the very end. I really appreciate you guys joining me in this journey. If you get a chance, please like the video, subscribe, hit the notification bell, all of that good stuff. And I hope to see you guys on the next video. See you.